Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango of South Florida, and today's date is Thursday, December 17th, 2020. Yeah, this one's going to be a brief, so I'm not going to put the background music or anything like that. Yeah, if you hear some banging in the background, they're doing construction across the street where I'm at, but it's all well and good. And, I was just going through social media, and I found some interesting news. And had to do a little looking. And this is here, came out yesterday, the press release by Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaii's 2nd District. Representative Gabbard and Massie bill to repeal government surveillance laws which threaten civil liberties. And it says here, yesterday, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaii District 2, and Tom Massie, Kentucky District 4, introduced 8970 to Protect Our Civil Liberties Act. The bipartisan bill will repeal the USA Patriot Act and amend the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, to remove dangerous provisions that undermine American civil liberties. The Constitution of the United States guarantees fundamental rights and freedoms for every American, including the right to privacy and protection against illegal search and seizures without probable cause. Unfortunately, the so-called Patriot Act and the FISA Amendments Act allow the intelligence community to conduct mass surveillance on Americans, collecting information about our phone calls and our emails, said Representative Tulsi Gabbard. Our legislation will repeal these laws and require Congress to strike the balance between serving the national security interest and protecting our civil liberties and the Fourth Amendment rights. And it's interesting because based on this, it was yesterday. She did this on her Bill of Rights Day, so that's pretty cool. So I gotta keep on going. The Patriot Act contains many provisions that violate the Fourth Amendment and have led to dramatic expansion of our domestic surveillance state, said Representative Tom Massie. Our founding fathers fought and died to stop the kind of warrantless spying and searches that the Patriot Act and FISA amendments authorize. It is long past time to repeal the Patriot Act and reassert the constitutional rights of all Americans. I am honored to co-sponsor Congresswoman Gilbert's bill and look forward to working with her on this issue. Here's the background. Hasn't been released yet, too. I looked it up. Hasn't been released yet, the actual document, but this is what it says here. H.R. 8970, Protect Our Civil Liberties Act, a bipartisan bill, would repeal the USA Patriot Act as well as amend the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to address dangerous changes made it into the years following the 9/11 attacks, and which were not addressed by subsequent FISA amendments made by Congress. The USA Patriot Act, along with charges to FISA, have been used to undermine American civil liberties, particularly the Fourth Amendment protections. Here. To protect our civil liberties would, 1, repeal the Patriot Act, which contains provisions allowing mass telephone metadata collection. 2, repeal the FISA Amendment Act, which contains provisions allowing for mass email collection, except for provisions regarding FISA court reporting and WMD intelligence collection. 3, makes retaliation against federal national security whistleblowers illegal and provides for termination of individuals who engage in such retaliation. 4, to ensure that any FISA collection against a U.S. person can only occur with a valid warrant based on probable cause, which was the original FISA standard from 1978 to 2001. 5, retain the ability for government surveillance capabilities to be targeted against a specific non-U.S. person, regardless of type of communications method or devices being used by the subject of the surveillance. 6, retain provisions in current law dealing with the acquisition of intelligence information involving weapons of mass destruction from entities not composed primarily of U.S. persons. 7, prohibit government-mandated backdoors in electronic device or software that allows the government to bypass encryption or other privacy technology built into said hardware and or software. 8, increased terms of judges on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, which is FISC, FISC, from 7 to 10 years and allow their reappointment. 9, mandate that the FISC utilize technologically competent technological and legal experts, special masters, help determine the veracity of government claim about privacy, minimization, and collection capabilities employed by the U.S. government in FISA applications. 10. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, regularly monitors such domestic surveillance programs for compliance with the law, including to member requests for investigations and whistleblowers' complaints of wrongdoing. 11. Explicitly ban the use of Executive Order 12333 as a way of conducting surveillance on persons or mass collection of information. Representative Tulsi Gabbard has long advocated for reforms that address our government's responsibility to protect civil liberties and ensure a strong national defense. She has actively sought to reform Section 702, the Patriot Act, introduced legislation to strengthen and expand the functions of the Privacy and Civil Liberty Oversight Board, or PCLOB, and is founding member of the bipartisan Fourth Amendment Caucus, focused on protecting the privacy and security of Americans in digital use. This past October, she introduced 2 bipartisan resolutions, House Resolution 1162 with Matt Gaetz, and House Resolution 1175 with Representative Tom Massie. House Resolution 1162 called on the federal government to drop all charges against Edward Snowden, while House Resolution 1175 defended freedom of the press and called on the federal government to drop all charges against Julian Assange. So remember, folks, I encourage everyone to contact your House of Representatives on these bills too, including H.R. 8970. And in September of this year, she held the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, which determined that warrantless telephone surveillance program that secretly collected phone records of millions of Americans violated FISA. That same month, she also introduced bicameral unplug the internet kill switch, H.R. 8336, which would amend Section 706 of the Communications Act of 1934 to strip out the internet kill switch and help shut the door to broader government surveillance or outright control of our communication channels and some Americans' most sensitive information. The legislation would also reassert a stronger balance of power during a national emergency between the executive branch and the people's representatives in Congress. In 2013, she voted against the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, which is CISPA, due to a series of concerns about its lack of privacy protections. She has continually called for reforms to the National Security Agency's NSA data collection practices and ending indiscriminate data collection. In 2014, she introduced the Strengthening Privacy Oversight and Transparency Act, or SPOT Act, to expand the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Boards, or PCLOB, authority to play a watchdog role never over surveillance conducted for purposes beyond counterterrorism. She voted against the USA Freedom Act in 2015 and again in 2020, when she also submitted 2 amendments and argued that strong protections against warrantless collections of Americans' internet browsing history must be added to the legislation in order to ensure warrantless surveillance and collection data on American citizens would be prohibited. In 2018, she voted against the Reauthorization Act of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and warrantless collection of Americans' calls, emails, texts, and other communications. In 2016, she voted to protect email privacy protections and called for answers following reports that Yahoo search users and private emails at the request of the federal government. In 2017, she voted to protect email privacy and protections and introduced legislation to permanently end the collection of Americans' internet communications that merely mention identifying terms for foreign targets but are not to or from those targets also knows about surveillance. She has also drawn attention to whistleblowers who have uncovered illegal surveillance activity and warned that efforts to prosecute those who report about it threaten yet another constitutional right of the freedom of the press. In October of this year, she introduced H.R. 8452, the Protection Brave Whistleblowers Act, a bill intended to reform the Espionage Act to better protect whistleblowers. Her work has earned an A+ from civil liberties advocacy groups Restore the Fourth and Fight for the Future. So, there's some. I give her props for this, and as far as I'm concerned, we should get rid of the FISA courts and all that. But it's a step closer of getting there. All right, so I can praise her on her work in those areas. And don't get me wrong, I'm critical of some of her platforms as well and actions. But this one here, I gotta support it. And those other bills, I did a petition to my congressman. All I got was mumbo jumbo rhetoric. Well, it's nothing new at all, So we just gotta keep on, plugging away. And we do have those resolutions, and even on your state, like on a state and local level, about the Patriot Act and all that as well. There's multiple resolutions on that. And I have put it on there. I think it's Bill of Rights Defense Committee.org. I might just add that to the memo, so at least you can look at it yourself. And you can thank Massie and Getz too for getting involved. At least it's more of a joint venture. So this is essential, and to protect our Bill of Rights culture. And you know what? Give her the thumbs up too. Thank her. All right, folks. That will be it. I would like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, if you something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote of this article on my speaker page. Yes, someone across be on the other side of the lawn is cutting the grass, so that's pretty cool. And what else was I going to say? If you want to contact me, you can hit me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com or LokiLuckNumbers03@protonmail.com. And plus, if you want to send me some donations, you can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.